Brother Peter with tidbits from the Word. This excerpt is mainly to Christians, but those of you who have never been saved yet can see the physical example that Jesus puts before us here in the book of 1 Corinthians, written by the Apostle Paul. Now remember, Paul was a man, his name was Saul, he was a murderer. He was killing Christians and putting them away. God came down and revealed himself to Paul and made to Saul and made him become Paul and used him as a Christian. Now what he was showing here, God's showing some things, that when Saul was the type of person he was, a lost person, he was creating other people in the same form he was in. They felt like it was okay for them to do the exact same thing he did, so therefore whatever he was doing with his body they were doing. Now they look, sinners look alike. Now a Christian, Paul got saved and he did a 180, complete different. He started protecting the Christians. He started joined the church. He started planting churches all over the place. He planted as many churches. He probably had as many people saved as he killed. And so Paul the Apostle changed. We have a picture of a grain of wheat. If you take a grain of wheat and kill it, it's got to die. If you don't kill it, if it don't die, if you put it in the ground green, it will rot or the bugs will eat it. Something will happen to it, but it will not produce. You have got to dry it and you've got to kill it. Let it die. It's actually dead. And when it becomes a dead grain of wheat, you can put it in the ground, water it, and it becomes a live grain of wheat. Now in 1 Corinthians, God talks about us becoming alive. And he talks about it by the righteousness of Romans. And the righteousness of Romans is, the book of Romans is that a man realizes he's a sinner, say, God forgive me of my sin, come into my heart and save my soul, and he becomes righteous. And that's done by the grace of God. That is done by the grace of God, when the grace of God comes in your heart. Now, I'm using a Dake Bible, a Bible with references in it. I'm not smart enough to dig this stuff out by myself, so I use what somebody else put some helps on the sidelines of my Bible that I could use. And in Romans 3 and 22 gives us a living, written, pure example, written by the same guy, Paul, wrote this. How did Paul write it? Did he write it through his own intelligence? Absolutely not. He wrote it through the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit came and dwelt in Saul, the Apostle Paul, dwelt in him. And at first he got on him, knocked him off his donkey, blinded his eyes, and then when Saul saw the light of Jesus Christ, he asked him to forgive him of his sin, come in his heart and save his soul, and he did. And then Christ indwelt him with the Spirit of God, and he was indwelt. Romans 3, and let's see what our reference is Romans 3 and 22 is the reference that we want to go to here. It said, even the righteousness of God, which is by faith of Jesus Christ, unto all and upon all them that believe, for there is no difference. For all have sinned and come short of the glory of God, being justified freely by his grace, through the redemption that is in Christ, whom God hath set forth to be a propitiation through faith in his blood, to declare the righteousness of the remission of sins that are past through the forbearance of God. Now, we're talking about taking a grain of wheat and letting it die, planting it, watering it, and bringing it forth. Now we're going to come back over to the human soul. The human soul that is living in death. We are living in death until we say, Jesus, forgive me of my sin, come in my heart and save my soul. Then we are like that grain of wheat that got planted and now is coming up in newness of life. Let me tell you something about a grain of wheat. These little bodies of wheat, grains of wheat, when they die, they all look just alike. They all look just alike. And listen, all sinners look just alike. In the eyes of God, all sinners are just alike. It's not that one's worse than the other or anything. It's that they all are sinners. All of us were sinners, and we were just alike. Now, I got planted. I asked Jesus to forgive me of that sin, and he planted me anew, and I'm raised a new grain of wheat. I look just like that old grain, but I'm different. I'm a new grain. And a new grain, I'm going to produce good fruit and new fruit, from the dead to the living. Now listen to what this is. Here I come as a new fruit, and I produce more fruit just like me. How do you do that? You take and you work those dead fruits that you know of, and you help them get renewed. Did you know that you can cut away the majority, all the majority of a seed, of a wheat seed? You can pull all the little leaves off it, all the little flakes off it, pull everything off it until you got a little bitty old round bead, a seed, and put that in the ground, and it will produce a crop with many, many, many more of those things on it, dozens of them, on that one little bush, from that one little seed. Do you know that God wants you and I to be that seed? He wants you and I to raise that crop. He wants you and I to spring forth and raise a crop that will raise a field. Wow. That's what we need to do. If you are saved, if you are a Christian, if you are say, a middle-aged lady, a lady in your 40s or so, and you're apt to teach, or you're apt to, you have a little education, or you're apt to take the Bible and teach, you could start a lady. We have a lady in our church. She is teaching 9 ladies how to take, over a 3-month period, each one of them, to take 9 ladies and teach them what they know, what they've learned, the wheat that they have learned, the wheat they are going to put in the ground, the wheat they are going to raise up. Now, if you take those 9 ladies and you take them all and put 9 with each one of them, and then they do the same thing, it's not long for you have a massive amount of ladies that have a good knowledge of the Bible. And this is the important thing. The Bible is the fertilizer for the wheat. The Bible is the fertilizer for you and I, the wheat, the human wheat. This Bible is the fertilizer for us. Let's look in the book of John. Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. Third book. And John what? I'm looking at John 12 and 24. John 12 and 24. Let's see what John 12 and 24 says. I love a reference Bible that I can go and I can see 12 and 24. Verily, verily, I say unto you, except a corn of wheat fall into the ground and die, it abideth alone. But if it die, it bringeth forth fruit. Whew. You know what he's saying? He's saying for us here, die to shyness. Don't be shy. Die to shyness. Don't be just a hermit to yourself, a Christian hermit. Have you seen Christian hermits? Some people say, I think he must be a Christian. I don't know, because I never heard him say so, or I never saw his actions so. But he seems like he might be a Christian. What you need to do is not leave any doubt. If you are a Christian, if you are a good grain of wheat, don't leave any doubt about it. Be what you are. Be who you are. He that loveth his life shall lose it, and he that hateth his life in this world shall keep it for life eternal. If you love a heathen life, you'll die and go to a heathen hell. But if you love a Christian life, or a godly life, you will lay down that old life, that old grain of wheat that's no good. You'll lay it down, and you'll take on a new grain of wheat. If any man serve me, let him follow me. Where I am, there he also be my servant. For any man serve me, him will my Father honor. Now in my soul is trouble. Now this was just before Jesus went to the grave. Listen, we need to be a living grain of wheat, and we need to bring up a stalk with wheat on it. We need to be teaching. If you are a Christian of any length of time and you're not active, you are not doing something, you need to get doing it. All you have to do is get a good Bible. Get a good King James Version. I say, listen, look behind me. I've got dozens of Bibles with dozens of notes, dozens of side notes. I like this one. I like this Dake. I promote this Dake. Probably in the last 2 years we've given away well over 100 in the church, especially to young people. I give them away pretty much on a daily basis, these Bibles. The hardbacks are about $44. We get them for about somewhere between $25 and $30, and we give them away on a regular basis at the church. And if you are a person with finances, and you have some finances, and you're in a church, and you want to get a class up and have them grow, and you order you a case. Order a case. You can get 12/12s is $144. For $144, you can get 12 Bibles, and they'll ship them to you in a case. 12 Bibles for $144 in shipping, and you can start a class with those 12 Bibles. You can sit down at a table, and you can teach people how to use those Bibles. They're self-explanatory. They are self-explanatory. If you read the first page, they're self-explanatory. Are you wheat? Are you good wheat? Are you good wheat that can afford to give a little more than just your tithe, your 10%? All that I have belongs to God. Every single solitary penny that's in my pocket right now. If I was going away broke, I could take it out and hand it to somebody right now and walk away happy. And suppose I have to go until I get another check, another security check or whatever. I'll go until I get another security. I'll be fine. God's going to take care of me. And I will have peace of mind and peace of heart if I did that. And I can do that. And you could do that if you wanted to. And especially you that have plenty. You're sitting on it. You cannot take it with you when you go to heaven unless you send it ahead. The only way you can take your money to heaven is you got to send it up there before you go. If you'll send it up there, when you get there, it'll be there forever. But if you hang on to it here, clench fist, hang on to it here, you go to heaven, you ain't going to have it. It's going to be left here behind. And you'll get no reward for it. You have a loss of reward. When you get to heaven, you're going to have a loss of reward for some things you do on this earth. I think being clenched fist with the finances that God's gave you is going to cause you great difficulty. When you get to heaven, it's going to cause you great loss of reward. Oh man, we are looking at a review of the book of 1 Corinthians in the back, summary of it in this Bible. Wow, man, what a book. And you can't exhaust it. You can't exhaust any of it. Did you know that I can take one chapter, a small chapter, with 15 verses and spend a week in it and never exhaust it? Just running references from Genesis to Revelations, from Genesis to Revelations. Do you know that the New Testament refers back to the Old Testament, and the Old Testament refers to the New Testament? It's a funny thing. The Old Testament's prophesying everything that's going to happen in the New Testament, and the New Testament is saying that the Old Testament is our record, that we can look back and see that this was prophesied. Everything you read in the New Testament was prophesied in the Old Testament, that it was going to be, and was and is. Now let's look back at the seeds. All right, grain that does not die remains the same as long as it exists. In 1973, the Lord allowed me to go to Egypt, and I went to Holy Lands. I went in the pyramid in Egypt. I saw grain in the pyramid in Egypt, 2,000 to 3,000 years old, that was just as good a seed as the day it was. And by the way, they say they can plant one of those seeds and it will produce more grain than any seed we have today. Just one of those seeds will produce more grain than any seed we have today. Those seeds are pure. They're dead. They're laying there dead. But as soon as you put them in the ground and put water to them, they're alive. And they raise up and they grow great big curds of grain. Listen, God is saying, you were dead in your trespasses and sin. But now you have been resurrected by saying, I'm a sinner. God forgive me of my sin, come in my heart and save my soul. Now you got to be a good seed. Now a good seed needs to go in the ground and be watered. And after it's watered, it needs to bring forth fruit. Some more seeds. What is the fruit of a Christian? There are several fruits. One of the fruits of a Christian is gentleness, meekness, temperance, long-suffering, and those things. Kindness. But then the fruit that's seen physically, other than that, is the fruit of another soul. If you will live a fruit-raising Christian, you'll have it. Hey, some fruit and marred grain reproduce perfect bodies in normal reproduction. You know that you can step on a grain of seed and you can mar it and you can crush it. It looks bad and you say, uh-oh, I ruined this one. No, you haven't. Put it in the ground quickly, water it. It'll pop out and it will produce a perfect grain. A perfect grain. Wow. We are like vessels that were marred and the potter has took and remade us. I was one of those marred grains and God took me and made me a perfect grain of wheat for Him, to work for Him. He'll do the same for you. If you are already a Christian and you are already a grain of wheat and you are already up, but you haven't developed, you need to develop. You can't develop unless you do it. You got to do it. You've got to do it. You've got to get in the book. I got this morning, early this morning, I was up at 4 o'clock. I get up a lot of mornings 3 o'clock and get on this YouTube and do these things. Why? I'm burning to pass on what I have. I'm going to die one of these days. It may not be far from now. It may be today. Who knows? I'm going to be going out of here. And when I'm going out of here, I want somebody to sit in my place. I want somebody to see the need for this to be done. Wow. And do you know it's not just the educated person that will do it? I know thousands of people that are much more educated than I am. Much more apt to be able to do better than I can do right here. But they're not doing it because they're not developing their self as a wheat to raise wheat. Hey, you can grow intelligently and lack spiritually. If you're going to grow spiritually, then you can grow spiritually first and then intelligently afterwards. If you're spiritually first, your intelligence will be spiritual. If you're not spiritual first, your intelligence can become a problem. You could be intelligent about this whole Bible and not know it spiritually. I know people that, man, they know this Bible, but they don't know God. They don't know anything spiritual. They know the words. They know it as literature. I talked about that on an excerpt earlier this week. What literature is and what it is. All right, a marred, a wrinkled grain can bring forth. Parts of the grain can be cut off and not sown, and yet perfect bodies produced. You can cut part of it off and sow it. and it will produce a perfect body, a perfect grain, just like it was originally. Wow, isn't that something? And what God's saying is, I can take that old, wrinkled out, mashed up, wicked soul of Brother Peter, and turn him into a good soul, a good grain of wheat that will produce good wheat and produce a crop to be my bride. What is our purpose in life? If we are Christians and we are left here, our purpose in life is to add to the bride of Christ. What is the bride of Christ? The bride of Christ is the church. What is the church? The church is a group of people that are assembling together with God in their heart, and they're all on the same page, and they're in union with each other, and they're following the God of heaven. That is a church. Doesn't necessarily have to even be in a building. Could be in a house. Could be out in the yard. Could be under a tent. Could be anywhere. When two people who have Christ in their heart meet, they are the church and the church talking with each other. They are the church coming together. And that's what the church is within us. Yet we have a place. I have a place called the storehouse. And I go down there Wednesdays and Sundays and work down there during the week. Do anything I can do for that. That place is my home. This is my home that I live in right here. I spend money on this home right here to keep it out. I spend money on that home down there to keep it out. My financials statement is just as much down there as it is here. That's my home away from home. I can go down there right now and sit down there and be comfortable. I can go down there anytime, walk in, walk out, walk around the property. It's my home. That's my second home, but it is my home. I'm comfortable there. Why? Because I have no reason not to be. Why do you have no reason not to be? Because I put my heart in down there. When I'm down there, I put my heart in it. I'll be walking across the parking lot. I see a piece of paper, I'm going to pick it up. I see a water bottle somebody's just got, I'm going to pick it up. I see a wastebasket full of trash, I want to empty it. I see a floor that needs vacuum, I want to grab a vacuum cleaner and vacuum the floor. That is my second home. And this could be my second home and not my first, and I'd be just as happy. God's put us all in a place, and we need to use that place. There are parts of grain you can cut off and still produce grain. There's no difference between the appearance of original piece of grain and the original. If you plant it, it's going to grow just like the other one, the one you planted. There's no difference in appearance of it. All grain reproduces their own size, their own shape, and their own individual characteristics. Every single same one of them. Every one of them are the same. Same shape, same size, same weight, same everything. They produce the same. And spirituality produces the same every time it produces spirituality. If you are so spiritual, you'll reap spiritual. If you sow carnal, you'll reap carnal. Sow spirituality. My advice to you is sow spirituality. If you are a saved person, you're watching this, I urge you to get a good Bible, to get in it, and ask the Lord. I tell you what you do. You a person that eats breakfast in the morning, fast breakfast. Don't eat breakfast. In the name of the Lord, say, I'm not eating breakfast today. I'm going to go to dinner without eating today. And I'm going to pray, Lord, give me the awareness of what this Bible says. And then later on, do that one day a week. And then later on, 2 weeks into it or 3 weeks into it, say, I'm on fast breakfast and dinner this week. On Wednesday, on one day. And I'm going to pray, and I'm going to ask the Lord to give me more power. To give me power. You want power? You're going to get power through fasting. You get power through fasting. Just praying, you won't get the power that you need. It takes some fasting. It takes some earnestness. So God will give you a double look at you. He'll do a double take and say, man, what is he doing? Pete's really, he means what he said. He's willing to let his stomach get hungry for me. He's willing to go 2 meals today. And then comes the day when he's willing to go 3 meals. Wow. And when I was young, I could go many meals, much time. I'm older now, and I don't do as much of that because my body is a little different. But anyway, fast as you can. If you just do 1 meal, you'll see the difference. You'll see a difference. Small and undeveloped grain, provided the life and the germ is there, will reproduce normal sized grain. You might be a little grain. You may have just got in. You may have just got saved in your little bitty grain. Go to work and water yourself with the Word and grow, and you will become a producer of large, beautiful grains of wheat. Wow. Man. And do we need that today in the Christian world? Reproducing grain are just as real and tangible and material as those that are sown. It is very important. The grain over the years has been protected. The grain out west where they raise thousands and thousands and thousands of acres of it, they protect that seed. It's like a bag of gold, a bag of that seed. Listen, if they were to do like what happened over in one of the countries, they had a potato. They ate the seeds. They got low on potatoes and they ate the seed potato. Foolish act. A foolish act. They would have been better to eat anything but those seed potatoes. But they ate the seed potato. And then they had a potato famine in the land. And this was a country that ate potatoes every meal. And all of a sudden there's no potatoes. There's no seed potato. So they had to go outside the country and find seed potato and get them growing again. And start all over again. Tough situation. Takes a lot of time to do such a thing. I tell you what, do not get in that situation. Don't waste your seeds. Don't waste your seed. Use it. Get in the book. Let's see what's in 1 Corinthians. Talks about righteousness. Talks about the grace of God. Talks about the reign of righteousness of God. Talks about the grace and the truth of God. Talks about the peace of God, the creation of God, the resurrection of God, the reconciliation of God, the revelation of God, the justification of God, the adoption of God, the exceeding riches of grace, all the needs are supplied, salvation, spiritual sacrifice, a good conscience, calling to glory, the utterance and knowledge. That's what's in this first little bitty book of the little bitty book. It's the 46th book of the Bible. It only has 16 chapters. It only has 437 verses, 9,489 words, 113 questions in it. And those questions mostly are, will you, or will you? Or will you? Will you? Will you give yourself to God? Will you remake? Will you grow new seed? Will you come up? Will you spring forth? And there are 5 Old Testament prophecies and 13 New Testament prophecies. 377 verses of history, 55 verses unfilled, and 5 verses of fulfilled prophecy. That's the book of 1 Corinthians. What a study. If you could get in it, and get in it. If you're saved, get in it. If you have just got saved, get in it anyway, and ask God to show it to you. Our time is about come and gone. This is Brother Peter with tidbits from the Word. We will see you next time. Remember, you can find us at www.faithlagrange.com. Faith LaGrange, Faith Baptist Church in LaGrange, Georgia. You can find us on the internet. All right. It's Brother Peter with tidbits from the Word. See you next time. Bye-bye.